Devaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 6, Text 1. Chapter 6, Purusha Shukta Confirmed, Text 1. Brahma Vacha Vacham Vanirmukham Kshetram Chandasam Saptadavataha Avya Kavya Mritananam Jiva Sarva Rasasya Cha.
Lord Brahma said, "The mouth of the Virat Purusha, the universal form of the Lord, is the generating center of the voice, and the controlling deity is fire. His skin and 6 other layers are the generating centers of the Vedic hymns, and his tongue is the productive center of different foodstuffs and delicacies for offering to the demigods, the forefathers, and the general mass of people."
Text 2. Sarva Sunam Chakvayoscha Tannase Paramayane Ashvinur Oshadinam Cha Kranomoda Pramodayoho.
His 2 nostrils are the generating centers of our breathing and of all other airs. His smelling powers generate the Ashwini Kumara demigods and all kinds of medicinal herbs, and his breathing energies produce different kinds of fragrance.
Text 3. Rupanam Tejasam Chakshu Diva Suryasya Chakshini Karnadisham Chatirthanam Shrotram Akasha Shaptayoho.
His eyes are the generating centers of all kinds of forms, and they glitter and illuminate. His eyeballs are like the sun and the heavenly planets. His ears hear from all sides and are receptacles for all the Vedas. And his sense of hearing is the generating center of the sky and all kinds of sound.
Text 4. Tat Katram Vastu Saranam Sabhakasya Chapat Janam Tvag Asya Sparshavayoscha Sarvamedasya Chaivahi.
His bodily surface is the breeding ground for the active principles of everything and for all kinds of auspicious opportunities. His skin, like the moving air, is the generating center for all kinds of sense of touch and is a place for performing all kinds of sacrifice.
Text 5. Roman Yudpicha Jatinam Yerva Yagnastra Sampritaha Keshashmashru Nakanyasya Shila Loha Pravityutam.
The hairs on his body are the cause of all vegetation, particularly of those trees which are required as ingredients for sacrifice. The hairs on his head and face are reservoirs for the clouds, and his nails are the breeding ground of electricity, stones, and iron ores.
Text 6. Bahavo Lokapalanam Prayasha Kshema Karmanam.
The Lord's arms are the productive fields for the great demigods and other leaders of the living entities who protect the general mass.
Text 7. Vikramo Purpuvashvascha Kshemasya Sharanasya Cha Sarvakama Parasyapi Harishcharana Aspadam.
Thus, the forward steps of the Lord are the shelter for the upper, lower, and heavenly planets, as well as for all that we need. His lotus feet serve as protection from all kinds of fear.
Text 8. Apam Viryasya Sargasya Parjanasya Prajapatehe Pumsa Shishna Upastastu Prajatyananda Nirritehe.
From the Lord's genitals originate water, semen, generatives, rains, and the procreators. His genitals are the cause of a pleasure that counteracts the distress of begetting.
Text 9. Payuryamasya Mitrasya Parimokshasya Narada Himsaya Nirite Mrityor Nirayasya Kudam Smitaha.
O Narad, the evacuating outlet of the universal form of the Lord is the abode of the controlling deity of death, Mitra, and the evacuating hole and the rectum of the Lord is the place of envy, misfortune, death, hell, etc.
Text 10. Parabhute Adharmasya Tamasaschapi Paschimah Nadyo Nara Nadinam Cha Gotra Namashti Samhatihi.
The back of the Lord is the place for all kinds of frustration and ignorance, as well as for immortality. From his veins flow the great rivers and rivulets, and on his bones are stacked the great mountains.
Text 11. Avyaktarasa Sindhunam Bhutanam Nidanam Nasya Cha Uttaram Viditam Pumso Hridayam Manasapadam.
The impersonal feature of the Lord is the abode of great oceans, and his belly is the resting place for the materially annihilated living entities. His heart is the abode of the subtle material bodies of living beings. Thus it is known by the intelligent class of men.
Text 12. Dharmasya Pamatubhyam Cha Kumaranam Bhavasya Cha Vijnanasya Cha Sattvasya Parasyatma Parayanam.
Also, the consciousness of that great personality is the abode of religious principles, mine, yours, and those of the four bachelors, Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanat Kumara, and Sanandana. That consciousness is also the abode of truth and transcendental knowledge.
Text 13 to 16. Aham Bhavan Bhavasjaiva Ta ime Munayo Grajaha Sura Sura Naranakaha Kagamrika Sarishripaha Gandharva Saraso Yaksha Rakshabhuta Kanorakaha Vashava Pitara Siddha Vidyadrascharana Drumaha Anye cha vivita jiva jalasthala napakashaha grahaksha ketavastaras taditas navaha sarvam purusha evetam bhutam bhavyam bhavachayat tenetam avritam vishvam vitastim aditishtati.
Beginning from me, Brahma, down to you and Bhava, Shiva, all the great sages who were born before you, the demigods, the demons, the nagas, the human beings, the birds, the beasts, as well as the reptiles, etc., and all phenomenal manifestations of the universes, namely the planets, stars, asteroids, luminaries, lightning, thunder, and the inhabitants of the different planetary systems, namely the Gandharvas, Apsaras, Yakshas, Rakshas, Bhutaganas, Uragas, Vasush, Pitas, Siddhas, Vidyadharas, Charanas, and all other different varieties of living entities, including the birds, beasts, trees, and everything that be, are all covered by the universal form of the Lord at all times, namely past, present, and future, although he is transcendental to all of them, eternally existing in a form not exceeding 9 inches.
Text 17. Svatishnyam pratapan prano bahishcha pratapatyasau evam virajam pratapam tapatyantar bahipuman.
The sun illuminates both internally and externally by expanding its radiation. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by expanding his universal form, maintains everything in the creation both internally and externally.
Text 18. Somritasya payasyesho martyam annam yat at yagat mahimesha tato brahman purushasya duratyayaha.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the controller of immortality and fearlessness, and he is transcendental to death and the fruitive actions of the material world. O Narad, O Brahmana, it is therefore difficult to measure the glories of the Supreme Person.
Text 19. Padeshu sarvabhutani pumsa stiti pado viduhu amritam kshemam abhayam trimudno dayibhutasu.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead is to be known as the supreme reservoir of all material opulences by the 1/4 of his energy in which all the living entities exist. Deathlessness, fearlessness, and freedom from the anxieties of old age and disease exist in the kingdom of God. which is beyond the three higher planetary systems and beyond the material coverings.
Text 20. Padastrayopahiश्चासन् अप्रजानम्य आश्रमः अन्तस्त्रिलोक्यस्त्वपरो गृहमेतो बृहद्व्रतः.
The spiritual world, which consists of 3/4 of the Lord's energy, is situated beyond this material world, and it is especially meant for those who will never be reborn. Others who are attached to family life and who do not strictly follow celibacy vows must live within the three material worlds.
Text 21. Shruti vichakrame vishvan sashana nashane ube yad avidya cha vidya cha purushas tupaya shrayah.
By his energies, the all-pervading personality of Godhead is thus comprehensively the master in the activities of controlling and in devotional service. He is the ultimate master of both nascence and factual knowledge of all situations.
Text 22. Yasmat antam virajagne utendriya gunatmakaha tatravyam atyagat vishvam kopi surya iva tapan.
From that personality of Godhead, all the universal globes and the universal form with all material elements, qualities, and senses are generated. Yet he is aloof from such material manifestations, like the sun, which is separate from its rays and heat.
Text 23. 23. Yadasya nabhyan aham asamahatmanah navitam yakna sambaran purushavayavan rite.
When I was born from the abdominal lotus flower of the Lord Mahavishnu, the great person, I had no ingredients for sacrificial performances except the bodily limbs of the great personality of Godhead. That's it.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Jai Shri Mataji and Pramod Prabhuji. That was beautiful recitation. We really enjoyed it. Thank you. Okay. Are the slides visible now on the screen?
Yes,
Yes,
Mataji.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll recite the prayers together and then we discuss today's verses, Srimad Bhagavatam, and we'll try to keep 5 or 10 minutes later on because today is the most auspicious appearance of Lord Sri Ram, Ram Navami. So we will try to speak something on the glories of Lord Sri Ram towards the end. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agnanatimirandhasya Gnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Sapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yatkrupatamahamvande Shri Guru Deenatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Krishna Chaitanya Ishwaram. नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयामुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी ततां प्रसङ्गान् मम वीर्यसंविदो भवन्ति हृत्कर्णरसायणा कथाः तज्जोषनादाशपवर्गवर्त्मनि श्रद्धारतिर्भक्तिरनुक्रमिष्यति. I offer my humble obeisances to all the assembled devotees and seek your blessings so I can speak something today for my own purification. Today's verses are 2.6, 19 and 20. So just to give recap of just two more verses before this. So verses 17 and 18. In verse 17, it is said that the sun by its own radiation pervades the entire universe and it is like a prana for the universe. Similarly, the universal form, the Virat Rupa, form, what it does is in this universe, internally and externally supports everything. And for example, externally, all our senses, they have gross sense and subtle sense. We saw in the last time we were discussing, for example, one of the senses is eyes, very important sense. So the gross form of the eye, form of this sense is the eyes, what we can see. But behind these, there is chakshu, which is the subtle form. So externally and internally, both we get these senses from Virat Rupa, and Virat Rupa is none other than the expansion of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So Virat Rupa is a temporary, bona fide, and material form of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. 18th shloka talks about it is very difficult to understand all the glories of the Supreme Lord. And here also, and in 1.5 chapters, Brahma has tried to explain glories of Supreme Lord, that how the Lord creates the universe, how he maintains the universe, and how he pervades everywhere, and he is the cause of everything, directly or indirectly. We saw in this past 1.5 chapters. But even after describing all of this, Brahma says that it is very difficult to understand the Supreme Lord completely. And this is what Brahma says. And even in the third and fifth chapter of the third canto, where Maitreya Muni will speak Bhagavatam to Vidura, there also Maitreya Muni says the similar, something similar. There he will again explain the whole process of universe, and a universal form discussion will come again. But after explaining that, he also says something similar, that it is very difficult to understand the Lord completely and to describe also. So there he speaks very beautiful words. It is 3.6.36. तथापि कीर्तिं ह्यामङ्गाः यथा मति यथा श्रुतं कीर्तिं हरे स्वां सत्कर्तुं गिरम् अन्याभिधासतिम्. So Maitreya Muni says that despite my inability, whatever I have been able to hear from my spiritual master and whatever I could understand or assimilate, I am now describing in glorification of Lord by pure speech, for otherwise my power of speaking would remain unchaste. So I really like this shloka very much because our senses, until they are utilized in the service of Lord Rishikesha, who is the master of all the senses, till then our senses remain unchaste. So our loyalty to Krishna is to use all our senses in the service of Krishna, whether it is our mind, intelligence, our hands, legs, body, our eyes, our speech, our ears in hearing Harikatha. So many devotees do so many wonderful services. For example, today, so many devotees have cooked for the Lord. So many devotees have distributed the books. They went on Harinam Sankirtan. So many devotees have been making garlands over the few days and cleaning the temple, decorating the altar, doing the aarti. So many wonderful devotees have been singing kirtan non-stop in the temple hall. There are devotees who are managing the queues. So much is there, right? Cooking prasadam, serving, clearing. So when the senses are used in this way in the service of the Lord, then that is the best utility of our services. And in the same way, what yathamati yathashrutam, whatever we heard, it's not possible to understand Krishna fully, but that is okay. According to the ability that is given to us by Lord, we try our best, depending on Guru and Krishna, and speak. That is all one can do. So this is the way. Then, and in the same way, the Lord Himself cannot understand Himself. I didn't know this, but when I heard a lecture there, it says Lord takes the form of Vatapatra Shahi, right, where He sucks His own toe because he can't do that as an adult, suck his own toe. It will look very strange, right? So he takes the form of a child because he wants to understand why my devotees are always talking about my lotus feet. There are hundreds of shlokas everywhere in the Shastra where Lord's lotus feet are glorified, and we emphasize so much on taking shelter of the Lord's feet. So Krishna wants to understand that what is that taste and that nectar they are talking about. So he becomes a child and sucks his own toe. So Lord cannot understand, and that's why he takes form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He becomes a devotee to understand that how Radharani loves Krishna so much, and what is his glory, and what is that rasa or the taste in serving him that the devotees get. So that's how it is. And Lord is Rishikesha. There is also another beautiful verse in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Sarvopati vinirmuktam tat paratvena nirmalam. Rishikena Rishikesha sevanam bhakti ruchyate. So bhakti means to engage our senses in the service of the Lord. And that's the best utility of our senses. So Krishna is the ultimate object of our senses. And even we will see in fourth canto, Dhruv Maharaj will say the same thing when he does the tapasya for 6 months. And when the Lord comes in front of him, he is only 6 months old. And before that, he has not read scriptures. So he looks at the Lord and he is so overwhelmed. He is drinking Lord's beauty with his eyes, but his speech, he cannot offer opulent and very eloquent prayers. So the Lord touches the conch to his head, and the entire Vedic knowledge of all the Shastra is revealed to him, and then he is able to offer such beautiful prayers to the Lord. So even the inspiration, the ability to recite prayers comes from the Lord. So we are so dependent. All we need to do is endeavor with sincerity in association of devotees, and Lord will provide. So not only Brahma cannot understand the Lord's glories, and then Maitreya Muni says the same thing. Lord himself can't, and even the Devtas and demigods say the same thing in 12.13.1. There is a beautiful verse where they say that Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Maruta Stuvanti Divyaistavai वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैर्गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुसुरासुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः. So all the Vedas, the scriptures and demigods, they come to the Lord and they sing his glories. And yogis are always meditating their mind on the Lord with so much effort and focus. So who can understand his glories? And Maitreya Muni, Brahma, they are saying the same thing as well. And so what I'm trying to say is that in the past few shlokas and past chapter, we have been trying to study the process of creation and what is the universal form, and there were some technical verses there. So whatever we can understand, that is great. What we can't understand, that is fine also. We tried with the best of our ability, and whatever we understood from the bona fide Shastras and Acharyas. But the main purpose is to glorify the Lord. When we understand the greatness of the Lord, that we can't understand everything about Him, we will be able to understand the Lord, that, okay, let's now talk about the sweetness of the Lord, glorify Him. That we can definitely do. That too, if Lord gives the power and sadbuddhi, we can do it. And that's why we come in the association of devotees to glorify the Lord. That is the main essence of understanding the creation part of the universe and trying to understand the Virat Rupa, etc. And even Lord Shiva says in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is one beautiful verse. It is Madhya Leela 24.313. Lord Shiva says, Aham vedmi, Shuko vetti, Vyaso vetti na vetti va. Bhaktya Bhagavatam grahyam na buddhya na cha tikaya. So when I heard this verse, I was really surprised that here Lord Shiva says that I may know, Shukdev Goswami, the son of Vyasdev, may know. And Vyasdev may know or may not know Srimad Bhagavatam. Now we know Vyasdev is the author of Srimad Bhagavatam, and Lord Shiva is saying, I may know, Shukdev Goswami may not know, Vyasdev may not know Bhagavatam. What he is trying to say is that on the whole, Srimad Bhagavatam, the spotless Purana, can be learned only through devotional service. So, not by material intelligence, speculative methods, or imaginary commentaries. So Srimad Bhagavatam is book form of Krishna. So what here Lord Shiva is saying that only a devotee can understand Krishna and Srimad Bhagavatam. That's why love, affection and devotion is a necessary integral part to understand Bhagavatam or to enter the realm of bhakti. This is the main thing, not a speculative knowledge or intelligence by which we understand the process of creation or everything. Okay, fine, great. If one's bandwidth or intelligence is there to understand, that is very good. But if we can't, then the main thing is we are trying to become in Krishna consciousness devotee of Krishna, and that requires love and devotion, right? Man mana bhava mad bhakto madhya jimam namaskuru. Immerse your mind, senses, intelligence, everything in Krishna with your, and Krishna wants our mind. He wants love from us. He wants us to immerse our mind and heart in Krishna. So that is the main thing. So Lord Shiva is saying here that unless one is a devotee of Lord, one cannot understand Lord or Srimad Bhagavatam just by the strength of one's intelligence or speculative power. And then we come to today's verse, which is verse 19 and 20. So with that background, we will try to now discuss. Okay. Padeshu sarvabhutani pumsasthiti pado viduhum amrutam shemamam abhayam trimurthno dhai murdasho. Translation and purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is to be known as the Supreme Reservoir of all material opulences by the 1/4 of his energy in which all the living entities exist. Deathlessness, fearlessness, and freedom from the anxieties of old age and disease exist in the kingdom of God, which is beyond the 3 higher planetary systems and beyond the material coverings. So we will I'll try to share Veda base so we can then read the purport together. Yeah, this one. Please tell me whether you can see 2619 on the screen now.
Yes, Mataji.
Thank you so much. So the purport. Out of the total manifestations of the Sandhini energy of the Lord, 1/4 is displayed in the material world and 3/4 are displayed in the spiritual world. The Lord's energy is divided into 3 component parts, namely Sandhini, Samvit, and Ladini. In other words, he is the full manifestation of existence, knowledge, and bliss. In the material world, such a sense of existence, knowledge, and pleasure is meagerly exhibited, and all living entities who are minute parts and parcels of the Lord are eligible to relish such consciousness of existence, knowledge, and bliss very minutely in the liberated stage. Whereas in the conditioned stage of material existence, they can hardly appreciate what is the factual, existential, cognizable, and pure happiness of life. The liberated souls who exist in far greater numerical strength than those souls in the material world can factually experience the potency of the above mentioned Sandhini, Samvit, and Ladini energies of the Lord in the matter of deathlessness, fearlessness, and freedom from old age and disease. In the material world, the planetary systems are arranged in three spheres called Triloka or Swarga, Martya, and Patal, and all of them constitute only one-fourth of the total Sandhini energy. Beyond that is the spiritual sky where the Vaikuntha planets exist beyond the coverings of seven material strata. In none of the three local planetary systems can one experience the status of immortality, full knowledge, and full bliss. The upper three planetary systems are called Satvika planets because they provide facilities for a long duration of life and relative freedom from disease and old age, as well as a sense of fearlessness. The great sages and saints are promoted beyond the heavenly planets to Maharloka, but that also is not the place of complete fearlessness because at the end of one kalpa, the Maharloka is annihilated and the inhabitants have to transport themselves to still higher planets. Yet, even on these planets, no one is immune to death. There may be a comparative extension of life, expansion of knowledge, and sense of full bliss, but factual deathlessness, fearlessness, and freedom from old age, disease, etc., are possible only beyond the material spheres of the coverings of the material sky. Such things are situated on the head, Adhai Murdasu. So I thought we will read both the verses and then discuss together. Verse number 20. Padastrayo bahishchasan aprajananya ashramaha antastrilokyasva aparo gruhamedo bruhadvrataha. The spiritual world, which consists of 3 months of 3/4 of the Lord's energy, is situated beyond this material world. And it is especially meant for those who will never be reborn. Others who are attached to family life and who do not strictly follow celibacy vows must live within the three material worlds. Purport. The climax of the system of Varnashram Dharma or Sanatan Dharma is clearly expressed here in this particular verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. The highest benefit that can be awarded to a human being is to train him to be detached from sex life, particularly because it is only due to sex indulgence that the conditioned life of material existence continues birth after birth. Human civilization in which there is no control of sex life is a fourth-class civilization because in such an atmosphere there is no liberation of the soul encaged in the material body. Birth, death, old age, and disease are related to the material body and they have nothing to do with the spirit soul. But as long as the bodily attachment for sensual enjoyment is encouraged, the individual spirit soul is forced to continue the repetition of birth and death on account of the material body, which is compared to garments subjected to law of deterioration. In order to award the highest benefit of human life, the Varnashram system trains the follower to adopt the vow of celibacy, beginning from the order of Brahmachari. The Brahmachari life is for students who are educated to follow strictly the vow of celibacy. Youngsters who have had no taste of sex life can easily follow the vow of celibacy, and once fixed in the principle of such a life, one can very easily continue to the highest perfectional stage, attaining the kingdom of the 3/4 of energy of the Lord. It is already explained that in the cosmos of 3/4 energy of the Lord, there is neither death nor fear, and one is full of the blissful life of happiness and knowledge. A householder attached to family life can easily give up such a life of sex indulgence if he has been trained in the principles of the life of a brahmachari. A householder is recommended to quit home at the end of 50 years, Panchashordvam Vanam Vrajet, and live a life in the forest, then being fully detached from family affection, he may accept the order of a renunciation as a sannyasi fully engaged in the service of the Lord. Any form of religious principles in which the followers are trained to pursue the vow of celibacy is good for the human being, because only those who are trained in that way can end the miserable life of material existence. The principles of nirvana, as recommended by Lord Buddha, are also meant for ending the miserable life of material existence. And this process in the highest degree is recommended here in the Srimad Bhagavatam, with clear perception of ideal perfection, although basically there is no difference between the process of Buddhists, Sankarites, and Vaishnavites. For promotion to the highest status of perfection, namely freedom from birth and death, anxiety and fearfulness, not one of these processes allow the follower to break the vow of celibacy. Anyone wants to read the last paragraph? Sorry, I forgot to ask. Or I
Can I
can.
read it?
Yes, yes,
Sorry,
please. Please
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Prabhu. Prabhu was first. Prabhu, go ahead.
I could see who I don't know, Mataji. I saw Mitali flash the
Okay.
name on.
Okay. Can I read?
Yes,
Thank
please,
you.
Mataji. Yeah.
The householders and persons who live deliberately broken the vow of celibacy cannot enter into the kingdom of deathlessness. The pious householders or the fallen yogis or the fallen transcendentalists can be promoted to the higher planets within the material world, 1/4 of the energy of the Lord. But they will fail to enter into the kingdom of deathlessness. Abhrad brothers are those who have broken the vow of celibacy. The Banapastas, or those retired from family life, and the Sannyasis, or the renounced persons, cannot break the vow of celibacy if they lost it. What is it? Thank you. The vow of celibacy if they want success in the process. The brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis do not intend to take rebirth, aparjaya, nor they meant for secretly indulging in sex life. Such a fall down by the spiritualist may be compensated by another chance for human life in good families of learned brahmacharis or of rich merchants for another term of elevation. But the best thing is to attain the highest perfection of deathlessness as soon as the human form of life is attained. Otherwise, the whole policy of human life will prove to be a total failure. Lord Chaitanya was very strict in advising his followers in this matter of celibacy. One of his personal attendants, Chota Haridas, was severely punished by Lord Chaitanya because of his failure to observe the vow of celibacy. For a transcendentalist, therefore, who at all wants to be promoted to the kingdom beyond material miseries, it is worse than suicide to deliberately indulge in sex life, especially in the denounced order of life. Sex life in the renounced order of life is the most perverted form of religious life. Such a misguided person can only be saved if by chance he meets a pure devotee. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Thank you. We'll try to share the slides now. As I was reading earlier, the 20th purport, at the end, after explaining everything, Srila Prabhupada mentions that if one meets a pure devotee, then he has a chance to, from such a degraded life, to elevate his consciousness, and he has some chance to come back to Krishna consciousness. And in the instant I remembered this verse as I was reading, so I put it on the slide. It's a beautiful verse from first canto, that remembrance and association of pure devotees. Yesham samsmaranat pumsam sadhya sudhyanti vaigraha kim punardarshana sparsha pada shaucha sanadibhim. Simply by our remembering you, our houses become instantly sanctified. And what to speak of seeing you, touching you, washing your holy feet, and offering you a seat in our home. So this should be our consciousness whenever we are bestowed upon by a blessing, when a pure devotee, a devotee of the Lord visits our house. And even if we remember that devotee, just by the remembrance, our consciousness has a chance to purify. So this is the importance and glory of a devotee of the Lord. So I really like that point, and I thought I'll put the verse here. Now this verses, today's verse 19 and 20, up to 22 verses, this one chart explains everything. Basically, it is just put in points very nicely, and I've taken it from Bhagavata Subodhini. So this is what these two verses are about. So it discusses, first of all, cycle of birth and death, the 19th verse. And what is the quality, Ekpad and Tripada? So we will discuss that. What is Ekpad and Tripada first, right? So Tripada, it means three parts, and Ekpad means one part. What is that? This is the part of. This is part of the entire cosmos, entire the space that is in the sky. The material world is covered by so many coverings. Beyond that, there is the spiritual world. So if we imagine, for example, that that entire space is one circle, and if we break that circle in four parts, then 3/4 parts are spiritual world, and just the 1/4 part is the material world. And like that, there are so many material universes. We are just like a dot, where our 14 planetary systems are, and we are just like that one universe. Like that, there are billions and trillions of universes where there might be even more planetary systems, and they will have their own sun planet. And like that, there are so many universes in one galaxy. Like that, there are so many galaxies. And like that, there is a cluster of many galaxies, many more clusters. So it is just impossible to understand. I mean, not impossible, very, very difficult to understand Lord's creation. So, like that, that is just 1/4 part. But beyond that, there is a spiritual world, and that is called Tripadam. So if we can't understand material world, you can understand spiritual world is so vast. How will we understand that? But actually, it is not so difficult to understand the spiritual world. It is easier. However, what it requires is our purity of mind and heart. When we have this purity, we can understand, realize, and even enter the spiritual world. So when there are anarthas, lust, pride, greed, envy in our heart, all our shortcomings, because of that, we are stuck up in this Ekpad Vibhuti, material world. And so, spiritual world, there is no birth, no death. There is none of this in the spiritual world. And in Canto 3, 15 chapter, there Brahma describes the spiritual world, the Vaikuntha planets. Here in 2.6, he is describing material world. But there in 3.15, there are very beautiful shlokas and descriptions of how Vaikuntha planet is. So, for example, 3.15.17 verse, it says, वैमानिका सललनाश्चरितानि शश्वत् गायन्ति यत्र शमलशपनानि भर्तु अन्तर्जलेनु विकसन् मधुमाधवीनां गन्धेन खण्डितधियोऽप्यनिलं क्षिपन्तः. So we understand spiritual world. I just took this couple of shlokas from the 3.15, and there is a beautiful description that what is happening in the spiritual world. So there are Vishnu Dutas. They look just like Vishnu. They are four-armed. They are holding Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma, and they travel in their airplane with their consorts, various Lakshmi Ji. And when, as they are traveling, they can smell the Madhumalti flowers, as the verse says, which are in the reservoir, and they smell it. But what happens is that Gandhena Khandita Diyopi Anilam Shipanta, they condemn this fragrance. Why? Because the fragrance distracts them and disturbs them from absorbing, from speaking the Hari Katha. It is distracting them from saying the glories of Krishna. So they are just completely focused on the Lord, and that is the activity of Vaikuntha Vasis. And even in the 28th verse, it says that the aeroplanes are made of and bedecked with such jewelry, they are gold studded, and they travel in these airplanes, and they are accompanied by their consorts. And they are associating with opposite gender there is male and female genders both there, and they are intimately associating, and they are in a private secluded ambience in their own aeroplane, and they have all the opportunity if they wanted to have sense gratification, but no, what are they absorbed in? They are completely absorbed in, they are Krishnatmanan, means they are completely Krishna conscious. There is absolutely no desire to enjoy on the sensual plane. So in Vaikuntha, although there is so much beauty, there are beautiful people on earth planet, but then more than that, there are beautiful people in heavenly planets. And more than that is in the spiritual world, millions of times. So there is beauty, there is opulence, there is everything. And there is lots of opportunities also. But there, what is not there? There is no lust. Hence, there is no birth. See here it says Tripada, there is no birth only in spiritual planets, because there is no procreation, there is no old age, there is no suffering, and there is no death. None of this is there in the Tripada Vibhuti. And everybody is inclined to worship the Lord. Here it says more inclined, not inclined, right? Ekpada Vibhuti here in the material world. Grahamedis means what? The residents are not all. Those who are Krishna conscious or trying to become Krishna conscious are not Grahamedis, but those who are basically living just to satisfy their senses. They do not have any devotional service or knowledge of Krishna, or no inclination or no interest. They are just living in the darkness, wanting to satisfy their senses. So that is the, and also in the first canto, there is a beautiful description, right? The qualities of, well, not beautiful, but the qualities of Kali Yuga people, that how they are short-lived and they are mandabuddhi, and they are always disturbed, they are misguided, they read the material scriptures. So all that comes under this category. And the nature of the soul is they want to lord it over the material nature, again wanting to satisfy senses. But here they are performing devotional service. So what we are trying to say here is that the lower the species, the more the degraded is the consciousness. For example, insects. In one shot, they will give birth to 100, 200 eggs at a time. So they will procreate so quickly and so many, because it is the lowest consciousness degradation. A little bit higher, bit better consciousness would be dogs or hogs. What they would do is they will give birth to half a dozen or dozen puppies or piglets at a time, right? And then we come to human species, where the pregnancy rate is once in a year, and procreation rate is very less compared to the insects and other species. Then above that, we are in Bharatvarsha. So the spiritual cosmos, which comes in the fifth canto, there it mentions Jambu Dvipa, where there are various Varshas. So higher than Bharatvarsha, other Varshas, their consciousness is much more higher. And there they give birth only once in a lifetime. They give birth to a child, because consciousness is elevated, lust is less as well, and birth rate is also less. So, and when we go to Vaikuntha or Goloka, there is no birth, zero death, no disease, no old age, zero sense gratification, zero procreation, zero everything regarding the sense gratification or material activities. None of that. There is only Krishna Katha and Krishna Seva, and everybody is extremely happy, blissful, and that's what the verse says. Verse number 19 says that Srila Prabhupada says that about the Ekpad is Tripada, which is characterized by Amrutam, deathlessness, Shemam, happiness, and Abhayam, fearlessness. In the translation, Prabhupada says. So here we can see why this is happening, because of lust. We are in this material world. Moreover, another prime anartha is envy. Now, when there are gross anarthas, we can clearly see it. But when there is subtle anartha, it is difficult to even identify within ourselves that we are envious of someone. Whereas if we go back to 3.15 canto, there also non-envy is mentioned in the Vaikuntha planets. There is a beautiful mention of how Vaikuntha plants, they are so fragrant, they are so beautiful, the flowers, and they are so opulent. There will be thousand petal lotus, or there will be extremely beautiful rose, there will be so many flowers, but they encourage Tulsi, who is not beautiful, but they encourage Tulsi, you go in the front and you serve the Lord. And Tulsi is always on the lotus feet of the Lord. So there is no envy there. And there are such exalted Vaikuntha birds, and they are like there in the words, there are many birds are mentioned there. Shuka, Titiri, parrots, Datyahu, Hamsa, all these birds, they are so beautiful and they have the most melodious voice when they sing. They can really mesmerize someone. But what they do is the humming bee, who is not singing very sweetly, they encourage the bee, you go in the front and go in front of Krishna and you sing, you please the Lord, you do the privileged service. Now we can see here that in the material world, it is very difficult to see this kind of non-envy, but there everyone wishes the welfare of the other devotee, and everyone wants to give the most privileged direct service to the Lord there. So first of all, there is no lust, as we saw by seeing the different various species in this world. In that world, there is no lust, there is no envy, and again, there is no fear. Why there is no fear? Why there is fear in material world? Because we are attached to the body. All the bodily relations, possessions, everything we are attached to, which we don't want to lose. Our own life we don't want to lose. But spiritual world, there is no difference between body and soul. There is no fear. Hence, there is, and they are completely dependent on Supreme Lord, wholeheartedly everything. Thus, they don't have fear because Lord is the provider. They know they have no fear at all. Fear comes when we think we are in charge and our surrender is not 100%. Only then the fear will come. So, and forgetfulness present as avidya. Again, in I think third canto, 12th chapter, we will see various nesciences that Brahma has to put when the um, Visarga happens, the creation by Brahma, and that time Brahma is also not happy to put ignorance in us, ignorance of our identity. Das, Dasanudas, right? We are servants of the Lord. But when we will forget that identity, that's when we will be caught in this entanglement of the three modes. That is not present in Tripad Vibhuti spiritual world, because everybody is fully knowledgeable of Lord's identity and their identity. They have complete Sambandha Gnana, and their process also they know, and their Prayojan also they know, Krishna Prema. They have attained their Prayojana. So there is no issue there at all in that sense. There is no forgetfulness. Souls are less in number here. There are innumerable souls. And Sandhini manifestation and Sachid Ananda experience also is mentioned here, which is in the same number as 1/4 and 3/4. So that is basically today's both the verses that I wanted to discuss about. That loss, envy, fear, none of this is there, but it is here. We have bodily attachment, and there is cycle of birth and death. Those who are in ignorance are grahamedis. Those who are trying to practice Krishna consciousness are trying to become devotees. And as we saw this beautiful verse, that if we take shelter of the pure devotees of the Lord, we are on the right track. And by their mercy, we will be reinstated in our constitutional position of being a servant of the Lord, being part of the Lord, trying to serve the Lord and utilize our senses in the right way. So here I would like to close the discussion for today's verses and wishing everyone a very, very happy Ram Navami, Jai Shri Ram. And I wanted to, for my purification, speak about a few verses from one verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, which I chose today to talk about. Sorry, I did not have time to put everything on the slide, being festival today, and I was also at the temple. So, but I have it here in front of me. I'll mention the verse number if you want to go on Veda ways and search it and see it also. So, today is the most auspicious Sri Ram Navami, appearance day of Lord Sri Ram. So let us invite Lord Sri Ram in our hearts, in our home, and in our life. And we can do that when we try our best to remove the anarthas from our heart, all the shortcomings. When we will try sincerely, we can just try. It will happen slowly. If we are sincere, Lord will bestow the mercy. As we know, Mother Yashoda tried very hard to bind Krishna. And when Krishna saw her endeavor so hard, he bestowed mercy upon her. So our bit is to try sincerely, and then Lord will bestow mercy. By his mercy, our heart will get cleaned, and then he will reside there permanently. And that's why we need to take the shelter of Lord's lotus feet. And in that mood, we should pay obeisances to Lord Ram, and we should surrender to Lord Ram. And Hanumanji prays to Lord Ram with this mood in fifth canto. So the verse is 5.19.4. If you want to have a look. यत्तद्विशुद्धानुभवमात्रमेकं स्वतेजसा द्वष्टगुणव्यवस्थं प्रत्यक्प्रशान्तं सुधियोपलम्भनं ह्यनामरूपं निरहं प्रपद्ये. So what does the verse mean? It means the Lord, whose pure form Satchidananda Vigraha is uncontaminated by the modes of material nature, and it can be perceived by pure consciousness. In the Vedanta, he is described as being one without a second. Because of his spiritual potency, he is untouched by the contamination of material nature, and because he is not subjected to material vision, he is known as transcendental. He has no material activities, nor has he a material form or name. As we were talking about Tripad Vibhuti, it's all spiritual, there is nothing material there. Only in pure consciousness, Krishna consciousness, can one perceive the transcendental form of the Lord. So if we want to transcend the Ekpad Vibhuti, we need to elevate our consciousness. So Hanumanji says, let us be firmly fixed at the lotus feet of Lord Ramchandra, and let us offer our respectful obeisances unto those transcendental lotus feet. Such a beautiful verse. Lord has no material name, no material form. Lord is experienced and accessible only by Vishuddha consciousness, which is devoid of any material contamination, envy, pride, malice. Those who are pure-hearted can access the purity of Lord because Lord is pure. So we need to give up the impurities in our heart. That is basically our goal in Krishna consciousness. And when we surrender to Lord Ram, then by his own power, he dismantles the arrangement made by the gunas, the three modes, right? Lord will pull us out of influence of gunas and give eternal shelter at his lotus feet. And this is how Hanumanji prays to Lord Ramchandra. So the essence of this verse is to surrender to Lord. We should not have material ego. And Bhagavad Gita says, Devi Hiesha Gunamai Mama Maya Duratyaya Mameva Ye Prapadyante Maya Metam Tarantite. So we can only transcend the modes when we take shelter of Daivi Hiesha Gunamai. Means what? Daivi Shakti, Lord's internal potency, the holy name, Srimati Radharani. So the illustrious personalities in Ramayana also like the Vanaras, sages, devotees of Ramchandra, they all kept their false ego aside and they surrendered. So when there is simplicity of the heart, honesty of purpose, then Lord will definitely give us shelter. There is one more beautiful verse I wanted to recite, and it's 8:44. If anyone wants to leave, I totally understand. Those who want to stay can stay. We will conclude in 5 minutes. So in Padyavali, there is a beautiful verse. Shri Narayana Pundarika Nayana Shri Rama Sita Pate Govindachyuta Nanda Nandana Mukunda Nanda Damodara Vishnu Raghava Vasudeva Narahare Devendra Chudamane Samsaranava Karnadharaka Shri Krishna Tubhyam Namah. So the word says, O Shri Narayan, O Pundarik Nayana, O Shri Ram, O Sitapati, O Govinda, O Achyuta, O Nanda Nandana, O Mukunda, O Ananda, O Damodar, O Raghava, O Vishnu, O Vasudev, O Narhari means Narsimhadev, O Devendra Chudamani, O Samsaranaraka Karnadharaka means captain of the boat for crossing the ocean of repeated birth and death. O Hari, O Krishna, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Such a beautiful verse with so many beautiful names of the Lord. So here the Lord acts as captain of the ship of our life, and he is his shelter of his lotus feet, and that will take us across the samsar, the material ocean. And the conditioned soul is drowning in this material ocean, and Lord's lotus feet will make us cross this ocean. There is a beautiful story of a boatman. He was taking Ram, Lakshman, and Sita across his boat when they were on Vanvas. So he told Lord Ram that please allow me to wash your lotus feet, because when you board my boat, I'm very fearful that my boat will become a woman. Why? Because Lord Ram, he says that a rock became a woman by the touch of your lotus feet. And if my boat becomes a woman, then how will I survive? Because that is the source of my livelihood. Seeing his innocence and simplicity, Sita Devi was very, very impressed, and she allowed, and then the boatman washes Lord's lotus feet. Then he takes them across the river. Then Sita Devi took out her ring and offered it to Lord Ram to gift it to the boatman. Then Lord Ram gave the boatman and said that, then the boatman says, why are you giving me the ring, my lord? Are you trying to pay me to take you across the river? Because you and me, we are both boatmen. We are equals. So why are you paying me? So we know this boatman is obviously, he's rowing the boat, he is a boatman. But how is Lord Ram a boatman? So because this boatman is very clever, he says, Samsaranava Karnadharaka Hare Shri Krishna Tubhyam Nama. Means Lord is the boatman who takes people across the material ocean, which is so vast, right? And he takes us to the spiritual world. He can take us from Ekpad to Tripad Vibhuti. He can do that. And thus he is also a boatman, because this entire material cosmos is compared to an ocean, material ocean and spiritual ocean. So the boatman very smartly said that I'm not charging you to board my boat, but you please don't charge me when I come to board your boat. So he's very, very intelligent, very clever. Basically, he's doing a very good deal for himself, because it's not easy to cross that material ocean so easily. Then he says, please don't expect me to be completely pure hearted. Please, excuse my shortcomings, because right, we were just talking in the shloka, if we have lust, envy, pride, greed, we cannot transcend the material world. So he says, I am not charging you. That time you don't charge me, and you take me across easily, and you give me some discount, give me some concession. So this way the boatman interacts with the Lord with so much love and devotion, basically. So if there are any shortcomings in us, Lord will accommodate, He will tolerate, He will forgive. But if there is any duplicity in us, then Lord cannot forgive us. So that is why we need to be very, very careful. Anything we do, even a little service, like how, the squirrel was also throwing the sand particles in the ocean when they were building the bridge to cross the Lanka. And Hanumanji was throwing big, big boulders and mountains and whatnot. But for Lord Ram, they were both equal. He was equally happy with the squirrel and Hanuman, because Lord is not seeing our action, He is seeing our intention, the purity of the heart. With our ability, what we can do, we will try to do our best, but very sincerely, not keeping any grudges, envy, hatred in our heart for other people, trying to overcome this material false ego, because Maya is very strong. So we need to take association of the devotees. And actually, I'm speaking all of this for me, trying to overcome so many shortcomings and trying my best and trying sincerely. So please give your blessings to me. Please forgive me if I said anything today that was not appropriate. And please give me your blessings. And happy Ram Navami again to everyone. We will conclude. I took 5 minutes extra. Sorry for that. Hare Krishna. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Ramayan ki jai. Lord Shri Ram ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so
Hare
much,
Krishna.
Mataji,
Thank
for
you,
that
Mataji.
class.
Thank you,
Thank
Divya.
you.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you. Can you accept my humble obeisance as a good Srila Prabhupada? Nice recitation of the Ram Katha. Very nice pastime of Kevat, the boatman. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you Mataji.
Hare Krishna.